Guys, looks like we are now at part 10 of my Columbine series here. I do know that I'm getting this up a day late. I do apologize for that. Life kind of got away from me yesterday, but here I am today. It is Sunday evening, September 14th, and I'm working on getting this up for you guys. Yeah, September 14th, this is actually the day of that Joe was found. I figured I was really gonna do the stuff after the shooting in a just slightly different order, but since today is Joe's anniversary, I'm gonna go ahead and talk about him today and in his memory. So I'm probably gonna be skipping forward in time a little bit, but I'm sure you won't mind. Yeah, Joe. He was born in. Let me talk a little bit about him a little bit, because I know a lot of people just think about him as being the trench coat mafia leader, but he was my also known as my big brother. So I'm going to talk about him, just the person he was outside of what you might think of him as being. So I'll go ahead and get started there. Yeah, Joe. He was born in Denver in 1980. He was born 6 weeks early. He almost died. He obviously didn't, and he came home from the hospital, healthy as could be. I came along 3 years later, and then my little brother came along 3 years after that. Joe was 7 years old when everyone moved back down from Anchorage to Littleton, and while me, Mom, and Josh took an airplane down to Denver, Joe and Dad actually took a big rig down through Canada, and they got into a little accident along the way, but everyone was okay there, although our swing set was kind of dented up a little bit. But anyway, let's see. Childhood was fairly normal, just doing big brother, little sister stuff. Played video games all the time. When we moved into our townhouse when we moved out from grandma and grandpa's house into our own townhouse in 1990, me and my little brother, we each got our own bedroom, but Joe ended up getting the open space in the basement, and of that was where his bedroom was, as well as the TV where we ended up setting up our video game systems as well. While that area wasn't technically part of his bedroom per se, we still kind of had to ask if it was okay to go down there to play video games. He was the first one to get a video game system for the household. He ended up saving about $100 of his own money to go ahead and get the Nintendo. And of course, we later ended up getting the Genesis, the Super Nintendo, and everything up from there. We just spent being kids. We just spent a heck of a lot of time on these video game systems, playing our video games and everything. And one in particular I remember was I believe it was called the Seventh Saga. I think it was for the Super Nintendo. That came out in 1994, I want to believe. Me and my siblings all decided, yeah, we'll go ahead and split it 3 ways. In the end, ended up being that I paid for half of it, my little brother paid for half of it, and Joe paid the tax. So, yeah, I got split 3 ways there. Awesome, right? Me and my little brother were kind of annoyed at that, but that he just was just paying the tax on it. But he did contribute a little bit at least. So I guess there is that. And a lot of you might think of Joe as being a big old heavy metal fan, and that part is true. The very first CD that came into the household was in Christmas of 1993 when he got Metallica's "And Justice for All" album. And once he got that, he ended up playing it incessantly. It probably annoyed Mom and Dad, but me, I was enthralled with this. I was because I'd never heard Metallica's music before, and so I got into them through Joe pretty much. In addition to Metallica, he actually had a very this might surprise a lot of you, but he had a very eclectic taste in music. He did like Metallica, Iron Maiden, Black Sabbath, all of the heavier guys. Rammstein, of course. He listened to Du Hast a lot, of course. And what else he was into? He's also really big into Genesis and Phil Collins. One song that he played a lot from Genesis was that I can't dance, I can't walk. That one. He'd play that one a lot. He loved that one. this is right around the mid-90s. He was a young teenager then. And another one that from Phil Collins that I also remember him playing a lot was the song called Another Day in Paradise. You've probably heard it, but if not, you can go ahead and look it up on YouTube after you're done looking at this video here and try to look it up and see why he liked that song so much. And also, I remember when the Beatles One album came out. That was about, I want to say it was 99 or 2000. I remember him eagerly being one of the first ones to buy that from Media Play, and he would, of course, blast the Beatles music for a while. So that would probably surprise a lot of you, but yeah, he did like all sorts of music. Just like me, he liked pretty much everything except country and rap, because you know how it is. Country plus rap equals crap. So I guess a lot of my musical tastes evolved from him. But one other thing that might surprise a lot of you, I did mention before that my brother had gotten me into anime, and I'll go ahead and detail some of that here. It probably some of you who were close to him will not be surprised by this at all, but a lot of you will probably be surprised by the fact that Joe, in fact, was a huge Sailor Moon fan. He'd faithfully watch the show every morning with me, and he bought the soundtrack, and at the time, there wasn't any eBay quite yet, and he was aware of some of the art books that were available in Japan for Sailor Moon. So what he had to do pre-eBay days was he went over to Amazing Fantasy Comics, which is pretty much right next door to Video City. He'd go ahead and special order the art books one at a time, wait a couple weeks for them to come in, and then he'd bring them home, happy as a clam, look at them. And when he was away, I would sneak into his room and look at these Sailor Moon art books as well, just being entranced by the art because it was so different from what I was used to from seeing from the anime on TV. And I don't remember if I detailed this in part one, but like I said, I did get into anime because of Joe, and whenever we'd go to Video City and look to rent videos and stuff, I'd always look over at the anime section, just casually, just looking at the box art, reading the back of the VHS box for the descriptions and everything. And in November 1996, me and Joe had actually gotten into a fight one day. I couldn't tell you what the fight was about now, but I decided to make it up to him by renting him an anime video. And that video ended up being a Bubblegum Crash Episode 2. It is a sequel to Crisis, but for some reason I wanted to go ahead and rent Bubblegum Crash Episode 2, and so we watched that, and he didn't see, I don't remember his reaction to it, but upon this one viewing of this anime, it was actually one of the very first subtitled anime I'd ever seen, and so when I saw this episode, even though it was a sequel, I was still like, oh my god, this is the best thing ever. So later on, I ended up renting the other videos of BGC that Video City had, which is 2 and 3 of Crash and 1 and 7 of Crisis. And after that, I got hooked from there. I was hopeless, but yeah, Joe never got into BGC quite as much as I did, but I do have him to thank for me getting into anime, so I will give him props for that. And yeah, in high school, I never really, it just kind of seemed to come out of the blue for me, the whole trench coat mafia thing. It was just like, all of a sudden, everyone just started wearing these black trench coats, and he ended up sewing some patches onto some of the arms of his trench coat, just kind of customizing it a little bit. And the group, him and his trench coat friends, they'd always come hang out at our house, because we had the basement. And Mom had gotten this foosball table for Dad, and Dad never really played with it. Actually, Joe and his friends played with it a lot more than Dad ever did. And yeah, they're just really a bunch of geeks. I mean, they'd play foosball, they'd sit there and watch Freakazoid and Animaniacs and just have a good old time with that, and blast music, of course, but they weren't really Satan worshippers or anything like that. I can't really testify to any of that. They're just, to me, I didn't really see anything different about them. They were just, maybe just because I knew them, but to me, they're just regular kids who just happened to wear trench coats. That's all it was, really. I mean, I'm sure you probably want to hear me say something salacious about the TCM, but you're not going to get anything from me, because it's the truth. There's nothing really special to say. That they're just a group of kids who wore trench coats. That's all it was, really. And let's see. after the shooting, Joe, like I said in part three, or part four, excuse me. After the shooting, I had called home to let everyone know that I was okay. I talked with Mom, and then I talked with Joe. Told him that one of them was some kid named Dylan. Those are the words I used. Some kid named Dylan, and he, like I said, he went into shock because I didn't hear him respond at all. And like I said, he got bugged by the media a lot. A lot of people came bugging us for interviews, and we had to leave the phone off the hook because media wouldn't stop bugging us. The FBI came and took away his computer just to make sure there's nothing on there that would incriminate him in knowing about Eric and Dylan's plan. And they did eventually return his computer, although it did come back totally wiped. So thank you, FBI, thank you. And yeah, he and Laura did become parents in fall of 2000 when my niece was born. And they did end up moving out, I want to say about a year and a half after that. And then, I guess the rest of it might be a little bit boring. But, I admit that Joe and me weren't as close as me and my little brother were, but, we were still brother and sister. I mean, he did protect me in high school because, he knew that the jocks would have wanted to bully me and stuff if I was by myself in high school. But so I guess he did some kind of, I don't know what he did behind the scenes, but later on he did tell me that he was able to keep Rocky Hofschneider from keep him from having me push a penny down the hall with my nose, which I'm not sure how well that would have worked considering the floor was carpet at the time. Maybe that would have just made for more entertainment for Rocky. I don't know. But yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I don't know what Joe did to keep that from happening, but he did keep it from happening, so I will thank him for that. And yeah, even after he became a parent, he was still insistent on teaching my niece the ways of hard rock and everything. So even when she was little, he'd still play Metallica and Smashing Pumpkins and Korn and all the bands like that. And so later, when she was about 4 or 5 years old, he took her shopping for her very first CD, and it turned out the first one that she picked was a Smashing Pumpkins CD. And of course, he got her into Weird Al as well, which is an important point I will bring up later. And there was one time he did want to try to take me to my first concert. I don't remember the year exactly. I do want to say it was after the shooting. He was going to try to take me to a Tom Petty concert. We went over to Foley's, which is now Macy's. We went over to Foley's to try to buy the tickets. The tickets were sold out, so of course we couldn't go, but I appreciated the thought of him wanting to take me to that concert. I really did. But, let's see. What else can I say about Joe here? Well, several years after my niece was born, he did want a son, of course, to carry on the wonderful Stair name. But Laura is a hemophilia carrier, so it was a well-known risk that if she did happen to ever bear Joe a son, that he would probably have hemophilia. But that was a risk they were willing to take. So in 2006, my nephew ended up being born. And before he even got circumcised or got his vitamin K shot or anything, they went ahead and tested him for hemophilia, and he ended up coming back positive for what's called factor IX hemophilia. And so Joe was okay with that because he knew that was a risk they were willing to take. So he did have his son, and Laura was able to give him his son. So we did have my niece and my nephew here. And I'll go ahead and continue with the rest of this story over on 10B here. I'll just go ahead and cut off here. I'll upload 10B in just a moment here, guys. Thanks for waiting.